Professor, I mean, the big news today is U.S. Senator Tom Tillis is no longer running, is not seeking a re-election for 2026. And I know I was taken a surprise by that sort of news, but you said you weren't really surprised, and why is that?
I'm not terribly surprised that Senator Tillis decided not to run for re-election. He has been an outspoken critic of Donald Trump in the past, and they have crossed swords a few times with different barbs back and forth. And I anticipated that that would probably attract a primary challenger and may encourage him to not run for re-election. So the interesting thing about all of this is the timing of it. The fact that it coincides with the procedural vote on the big beautiful bill, the fact that Senator Tillis voted against it and then the very next day announced that he's not running for re-election, I find that the most interesting.
I mean, he's been under a lot of scrutiny, I want to say over the last 6 months, maybe even a year. I know offhand plenty of constituents here in North Carolina protest at his office, really laying into him, especially when it comes to things like Medicaid.
Well, and the interesting thing is it depends on who you talk to. There are some within the Republican Party who liked the fact that he was a moderate and was working with people on the other side of the aisle. But there are some staunch conservatives or staunch supporters of President Trump who were very upset with him for breaking with the president. So he was in a tough situation where there might have been a pathway for a primary challenger to flank him on the right in the primary.
North Carolina is, I think it's safe to say we are a swing state. You know, we get a lot of eyes, a lot of attention on us in any election, I want to say midterm or general. And considering, you know, a U.S. Senate seat, that is a huge position that now needs to be filled. How, from your perspective, how intense could this race potentially be?
I think this will be the race that everybody in the country is going to be watching. The fact is North Carolina is a swing state. We're split pretty evenly between Democrats, Republicans, and then interspersed with independents. We have a Democratic governor. We have 2 senators that are Republican. So it shows that the Democrats or the Republicans can win statewide in North Carolina. So an open Senate seat is going to get a lot of financial attention as well as media attention.
I mean, we know that a lot of these elections start well before, you know, these candidates' names are already on the ballot. I mean, do you think we could see some movement, some announcements as early as this year?
Well, we already have 2 Republicans that have thrown their hat into the ring and 1 Democrat, a former congressman on the Democratic side and a former Navy SEAL and a businessman on the Republican side. But it's the people who haven't announced yet that really is getting the most chatter. On the Republican side, I mean, you have to remember we have 14 members of Congress from the state of North Carolina. Let me back up because we were just talking about upstairs. We were talking about New York, so I threw that in there. So one of the key things to remember is out of the 14 congressional delegation for North Carolina, 10 of them are Republicans. So right there you have 10 members of Congress that could potentially run. But you also have names like Laura Trump being thrown around. The fact that she has a house here in North Carolina, is a resident of North Carolina, and this would literally put Trump's name on the ballot because her last name is Trump. That would be an interesting one on the Republican side. On the Democratic side, speculation about former Governor Roy Cooper, possibly former Congresswoman Kathy Manning. Some have even talked about the current Attorney General thinking about maybe jumping into the race. So it could be a very interesting race between the Democrats and the Republicans, but the primaries are going to be ones to watch as well.
I would love to actually delve a little bit deeper into that with you because we were actually talking about that in our morning meeting, especially the Republican primary. I kind of touched on it briefly before we started talking, but you know the opposition that Tillis was facing from his own party, from other Republicans, could you foresee an intense primary?
I think that so the Republicans have a pretty deep bench when it comes to people who might be interested in running for Senate and can make a claim that they have the credibility and the background to run for that seat. So we could see multiple people running for that primary, but they have really an audience of one. They have an audience of Donald Trump. Whoever gets that nomination is going to have the inside track, if you will, for winning the nomination. But I don't know how that translates into the general election, and we'll have to wait and see.
It's probably, you kind of mentioned it earlier, it's kind of a good thing for Tillis himself that he doesn't need to worry about a primary now. He doesn't have to worry about competing in general election. He can vote his conscience.
The number one priority of every elected official is re-election. Thom Tillis is no longer burdened with that responsibility. He is free now to really, as he said in his press release, call the balls and the strikes and vote his conscience on the main issues. If anything, this actually works against what the president was trying to do by intimidating him into, being loyal to him. If anything, now that he's announced that he's not going to run, he's a big question mark as to which direction he'll go on each of the votes.
I mean, so there is a possibility that, when it comes to the big, beautiful bill, he could start voting against it more, I guess, openly, less fearfully?
Well, I think that he is free to be able to vote as he wishes on those bills because he doesn't have the threat of not getting reelected at this point. He has taken that off the table as a threat and is now able to legislate without having the concern about being reelected.
It's not terribly uncommon for U.S. senators at some point in their career to just say, okay, I'm done running for re-election. But, and forgive me because I can't remember this off the top of my head, how long has Tillis served? Because I don't think he served for too many terms, right?
He will be finishing up his second term. So he was a two-term senator. He would have been a three-term senator had he ran for re-election and won. But he still has 18 months on this term, which means that there's a lot of votes that are going to happen between now and the end of his time in Congress. So he's going to play an important role with deciding the narrow margin that the Republicans currently have in the U.S. Senate.
Do you think it's possible in any capacity? I know you said that any Republican potential senator or candidate would most likely fall into the line of agreeing with our president, but do you think it's possible that Senator Tillis could sort of, I guess, nominate a protege in his sort of, I guess, line of thinking, of his sort of demeanor?
So when you look at a campaign, there's really two campaigns. There's the primary race and the general election race. And the fact is, the primary electorate is much more in line within the Republican Party, much more in line with Donald Trump than they would be with somebody who goes against Donald Trump. So I don't know what kind of impact and endorsement from Thom Tillis would have on the outcome of that race, but I think that Air Force One is going to be spending a lot of time in North Carolina, and I think that's going to have a big impact. If you have a relationship with the president, if you're a daughter-in-law, if you're a hunting buddy of one of the Trump children, that gives you an advantage when it comes to running for this office.
So let's kind of turn our attention towards the triad. I know that off the top of my head, Forsyth and Guilford County typically lean Democrat. I know some of our surrounding more rural counties typically lean Republican. When it comes to this open seat now, so to speak, what counties do you think here in the Piedmont Triad could be very, I guess the word, potential swing counties, if that makes sense?
Well, potential swing counties, maybe Cabarrus County, a little to the south of here, could play an important role. That's outside of the triad, but still within, right on the cusp of your viewing area. Really, it comes down to, you have Forsyth and Guilford County, which have the larger populations, and then you have Rowan and different counties that are more rural and tend to be more Republican. So it's going to come down to not necessarily swing counties, but comes down to turnout. who gets their base to turn out, not only in the primary, but also in the general election. Traditionally, Democrats don't vote in as high in numbers in midterm elections as do Republicans. That trend has been shifting a little bit, so we may see it come down to turnout deciding who wins that Senate seat.
Actually, that's a great question leading into our midterms. The first few months of the Trump administration for the second term of his, it has drawn a lot of controversy, dare I say a little bit of scandal, from immigration to the Big Beautiful Bill as an example. Do you foresee a decent, maybe increased amounts of turnout among Democratic voters when we look at this midterm election?
It all comes down to the economy. If the economy is limping along as we roll into 2026, I think you're going to see more Democrats energized to get out and vote. Donald Trump is let me back up. The Trump factor cuts both ways. It energizes the base of the Republican Party, but it also energizes the base of the Democratic Party. So his presence, his involvement in that Senate race could have trickle-down effects across the board on the ballot for Democrats and Republicans, both in a positive and potentially a negative way for his preferred candidates, because it's going to come down to how well his administration is doing as we get closer to the election.
I think those are a majority of my questions. If you could just say it one more time for us, just how monumental this decision is by Senator Tillis, because I think it is safe to say it is monumental, right?
Well, it definitely is unprecedented, and again, the timing is very interesting, but the fact is, whenever you have an open Senate seat, most senators stay in until they can't run anymore, and then either are beaten, primaried or beaten in the general election. Very rarely does a senator just say, I'm done, and step aside. So the fact that we have an open Senate seat in North Carolina, a key swing state, and the balance of power in the Senate is up for grabs, a lot of attention is going to be made on this race.
I forgot. There was one more thing I meant to ask you. I apologize.
Yeah.
Because there's not going to be a primary where Tillis himself is involved, do you think that might take the wind out of the sails for any primary challengers and possibly any Democratic challengers?
Well, no. And the reason why I think with Tillis out, so Tillis was a moderate Republican. He leans to the right, and I don't want to completely dub him as a moderate. I mean, he had a very conservative voting record. But when it comes down to the election, with an open seat, because there's so much at stake being able to win that seat, I don't think either side are going to let off when it comes to fighting it out in the primary and in the general election for that seat. Specifically in the Republican primary, you're going to have them really clamoring to get the endorsement of Donald Trump. And I think that whoever gets the nomination from the president is going to have an advantage in the Republican primary.
Okay. Is there anything else I didn't ask you directly that you want to touch on really quick?
I think the key thing is we are still 18 months away from the general election. Anybody who says that they know which direction this is going to go is kidding themselves. There is a lot of politics that's going to go on between now and then, and it's going to be an interesting spectacle to watch this election cycle.